what's it going to take for, we'll use music as an example again. Like, what's it going to take for like Bruce Springsteen, right, to want to do an NFT ticket or, the Chili Peppers or any of these bands? And there's really unique things that you could start to think about leveraging existing data, but then taking advantage of like how NFTs work, which are like provable one-to-one fan owns, can't be replicated type experiences. Passion is very important to kind of deeply understand here. I think if you're really trying to build businesses within the Web3 ecosystem, there's a lot of concentration on speculation, and speculation can be a passion for many folks, absolutely. But as we talk about kind of new entrants and new interests, right, it's really important to really identify like what people are going to care about outside of market cycles, things that are very important to them that make them feel good or make them feel bad, but seem somewhat critical, to their experiences online. So that's really like the first thing that we look at. Like, even though we are a crypto fund, we really try to identify like what the incumbent market looks like, what areas seem a bit conservative, what areas could be a bit offensive, and how could we really kind of like pour gasoline on that for the ones where passion is core, but crypto uniquely enables it. I'd say one area that I'm particularly excited about that we're heavily investing in is this notion that we've observed over, I'd say, the past 6 to 9 months, which is regardless of whether you want to say Web 2 or Web 3 or whether or not something needs a blockchain, there's something incredible happening in the Web 3 space, which is individuals are able to participate and engage in experiences that previously felt either professionally or personally prohibitive. And what does that really mean, right? Like, one example is like, I want to be like you mentioned, I love music, you love music. I'd love to manage a record label. In no way in hell.
In our fantasy lives, that's all we do, right? You and
I. Right. My dream is to do that. I have no business doing that, right? Like, my background, even though I was a music writer and I've been in the space for some time, like, I'm not going to get hired by Warner to be an executive of their label. But there's companies, right? One of which Hume, which, we're working with, that is creating that for individuals. It's a decentralized record label where people could sign up, they could be a part of the label, they can manage metastars, the direction of them, make decisions, but really kind of gives you the opportunity to experience something that otherwise, would have been somewhat prohibitive. And I think we're seeing that exponentially grow, because where that's starting to move these sort of communities in crypto is that previously, like, especially in the NFT space, the incentive to get out has been bigger than the incentive to stay in, right? You like buy an NFT, people want to scream, oh, it's a community, it's valuable, it's amazing, till they're blue in the face. But in the end, when you join these things, in the past, you wait for, a significant price increase and then you sell out of it, right? Like, the incentive to stay in does not outweigh the incentive to get out financially. In these sort of environments, it flips it, right? The incentive to stay in could or should be far greater than the incentive to get out, right? Because of that passion and because of that newfound experience. So I use Hume as the record label example. There's companies like what Mike Dudas is doing with Linkstyle, where, you can own a golf course and have a say in like, this future golf, apparel lifestyle brand. You could be in WAGMI United and you could buy a Premier League team. There's another one that we recently invested in called Archive, which is a decentralized museum, but quite simply dubbed, what would it be like to curate the Smithsonian? And individuals who join that community can choose which physical items to acquire. They've acquired 5 things already, the original patent for the first computer, the original VMA Moonman, which you could relate to from like 1984, and they choose which assets they want to acquire, they curate, and then they decide, where should we distribute this? Should this go to a Smithsonian? Should this go to the MoMA? But really giving people these experiences that we hope and are banking on, for the most part, people are going to want to remain invested and, remain engaged in those, because it's something that they're getting there that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, it feels that the really big thing here, well, one of the really big things is culture and community becomes an asset class, because, as you say, these digital assets within a community just make sense. And if it's a passion, you're driven to stay within that world, whether it's the music world, whether it's the art world, whether it's the movie world, there's all of these big cultural phenomenons that carry real cultural currency that Web3 really enables.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other, like, I mean, it's all about building blocks. Like, I do believe that everything that's happened to date is pretty essential for us to more firmly understand, like, what could be done, what's going to drive user interest, like, what's going to incentivize people to more deeply engage. The biggest theme for that is probably ownership, right? Like, we've heard that thrown around. Many kind of crypto funds and focuses are really around this notion of ownership, that, you know, you've effectively rented land and experiences on the internet for the past 20 years. And now, you know, you may want to own your assets, decide what to do with them, own your data, right? There's all different pockets of this. But where I think that's kind of hit a ceiling, and where this kind of experiential theme and passion theme takes it to the next level, is like, okay, I could own something, so what? Right. And so many companies that have been building in this space have really anchored on that. Like, own this because you couldn't own things digitally previously, because NFTs have really, you know, unlocked that from a technical point of view. But our focus is like, okay, I own something, what could I do with it? Right. So it's really around like the like deeply concentrated utility of when you purchase something, what you can do with it. Right. So there's a ton of examples there, but one really great one that, again, we're going to talk a lot about music. You said that, but one is this company Medallion, and Medallion's fascinating. You know, the founder is the former CEO of Songkick, previously found CrowdSurge, and his approach to like Web3 and what it really means for the artist fan relationship is that direct to consumer, right, really doesn't like it. It exists, but it's not particularly strong as it relates to music, right? So we all know this, right? Early days when the internet started, like, your relationship with an artist was like Google searching when someone would be on tour, hopefully buying tickets. Facebook made it a little bit closer where you could follow them. You could follow their Facebook page, but you're basically just getting updates, and you might as well be talking to a bot, or it'd be a community manager. Twitter takes it like a step further where, you know, maybe the artist behind the handle is actually the artist, and maybe they'll engage with me. But what the NFT space has really brought, like, because of the pure mechanics of how it works and people investing money and joining Discords and everything that kind of comes with it, is a way more direct relationship. And what Medallion did, which I think is like pretty brilliant, you know, as someone who's a massive fan of many artists, is they said, well, what do super fan clubs look like on chain, right? That instead of just signing up for like an email address and getting alerts and newsletters to purchase tickets, what if artists released, you know, 500 to, let's say, 1,000 superfan NFTs to their fans? And that could be a block list or allow list, however you want. Maybe it's top Spotify listeners, maybe it's a raffle, but they release a limited amount, like 500 to 1,000. And then those fans who get those NFTs, they get a ton of benefits from that, right? If you hold the NFT, maybe you get preferred seating at a show, or early ticketing, or backstage pass, discount merch, physical merch. And it really kind of like rotates the relationship between artists and fans, where you more deeply understand like who your fans are, but also you work to provide increasingly more value for those super fan holders. And then there's an amazing economy that could be built on top of that, right? Like, there may be a secondary market now where, you know, in an amazing world, you know, like the existing members of the Velvet Underground return to do one show, and you're like, I need that, but I'm too late to get in. I'll pay anything, right, to kind of like be a part of that. So those sort of functions, I think, are like you use the word culture. Like, it really is building a tighter connection between things people really want to do, where there's a ton of value, where, you know, the fans do in fact have a lot more control with what they want to do with it. They could keep these experiences, they could sell these experiences, they could share these experiences, but it's really kind of like switching the way that these things work online in a way more direct way versus artists having to manage these relationships across all these platforms.
And how are people getting across the hurdle of NFTs? It's like, you know, you're a music fan, you don't care about NFTs. Yes, you care about the rights you get within the community. You care about maybe the rights to the music you might get given or artwork. But this whole NFT MetaMask nexus is a fucking nightmare for the average person.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of us have had to go down the rabbit hole, make all the mistakes, but we can't do that to the next 500 million people. What are you seeing on that front? How are people solving that?
Yes. So I think I have this saying that I've like thought of pre even thinking of crypto as the business model, where oftentimes the most direct way to kind of drive your business is through like indirect means, right? It's like people are always like challenging Spotify for taking so much of a cut for artist streams, or challenging YouTube, right, for taking too much of a cut. But 9 out of 10 people that you talk to, at least behind the scenes, love those platforms because of distribution, right? It's like, look, like that's my top of funnel. Like I'm being judged by how much money I'm making from Spotify or YouTube. But in reality, if I'm not there and people can't find me, then do I even exist? So you basically like leverage these like indirect means of saying, okay, give me more top of funnel scale. And then I'm going to work to like drive the relationship down the funnel further. And that may, mean membership or selling merch or seeing live events, all of these other things. I think the NFT space is going to evolve into a very similar bucket.
Hey visionaries, thank you for tuning in. For more free crypto content like this, head over to realvision.com/crypto. You'll get early access to the most brilliant minds in the space to cut through the noise, get in-depth analysis, and get you ahead of the curve with unbiased insights.